Welcome to Dark Sorcery. I'm Alfredo Martinez, and I have with me once again Sander Nasi. Sander, it's been too long.
It's been a while, but I am as happy as I was the very first time and very excited to be back here. It's been a beautiful journey since the last time, of course, that we spoke about things, and it's only about to get better.
Yeah, it's definitely, I believe so. And we had done a 7-day invocation of Belial. Um, my experience I had spoken of on another video where I had headaches and hiccups for 4 days straight and different strange things. But go ahead and tell us about your experiences during that time.
It was a very, very interesting operation because it was unlike any other typical long-term invocation that I would have performed. So you could tell that it was given with a purpose. Okay, he did tell us to do this for a serious reason. It started in stages. First day, there was nothing really of great significance. It was just typical. The space would be raised, you would feel it. In my case, usually I would start to get the whole effect of the black eyes and voice changes, and you feel a big, big tension within your body, basically. Now, what happens is that energy will begin to build up as you keep going. By the second day, that would reoccur, but then you would tell straight away that the energy has been severely built up in the room. So the second you walk in, even without you having started any ritual at all, you could kind of feel it as if you're walking in a room where, let's say, a lot of candles were lit, where the air has a very thick kind of a not smell, but you can breathe it in. Basically, you can
Right.
feel it that kind of way. Let's say if there was a room that was shut when there was many candles burning, that kind of heavy atmosphere.
Yeah.
Um, it got more interesting by day three. Um, it would get to the point where the trance is immediate and violent. It starts in within a second, the second you sit down. And then you also start seeing all kinds of things moving like little orbs in the beginning. I would find out that we are dealing with familiars of the legions of the lawless that are coming in to raise the space, and each and every one of them, of course, would take their turn into giving a little piece of transformation to the operator. Moving on, day six, it is because the previous days then remain the same. By day six, you will enter once again a very quick and violent strength, a violent trance, sorry. And you would be on the brink of being half awake and half asleep, in my case at least. And at that stage, you are going to get such a significant voice change that it is unrecognizable. Like personally, I'm used to this because I'm very, very close to the spirit and I do invoke him very often. But I never had such a manifestation of altering to my own voice, which was literally like 4 times deeper than what it is now.
Mhm.
Day seven, the heaviest of all and most significant, to the point where you will end up having a complete muscular tension to the point where you will lock into your position when you will be on the ground. Because I was on my knees, I'm always on the ground when I do this. It helps me focus more. Um, you will lock, your back will not be able to move, and you will also experience tension in the back muscles of your neck. Your neck and body will grow significantly. You will bulk twice your size. You will feel it and you will see it. You will also get the half asleep trance once again, but then you will wake up and remain steady and firm, very, very heavily, solidly focused and steady. The orbs will fly in once again, and at that final stage, in my case, you will see him. He will appear there, usually in the form of a big, muscular, armored man with in a shadow form. And he will be there, and then the voice starts going wild. It's almost gonna be you'll be vibrating almost like a lion roar. It's gonna go all over the walls. You're gonna feel it everywhere. Okay, and the true transformation of this begins after the 7th day. I was personally called upon traveling, so I had to go to a specific place, and I was supposed to perform a ritual. Now, I wasn't going to be alone in that specific place, but I happened to find myself there earlier than planned, and I was in nature, and all of a sudden, you will get hypersensitivity of your senses the second you step into the nature after you have performed these operations for the 7 days. You will become connected to literally everything around you, and your senses will just pop up and you will be able to see it. I could see the wind all of a sudden as a colorless energy moving around me. I could see the energies of the very grass I was stepping on going upwards and then falling back into the ground, creating a solid, balanced energy, which is steady. That's why we see energy as of the earth as a steady, solid energy, because it moves in this sequence that goes up and down and it remains steady.
Mm.
I tried to see what exactly is going on. I kind of had a notion of what's going on. You will also be able to start hearing a lot because you are literally picking up upon all the elementals that are around you, and they are numerous. It can get a little bit crazy at first because you're not really used to this, especially if you spend some time struggling with your senses. Not everyone is able to open up.
Yeah, I can relate because at times I can hear the elementals in the wind talking. I can hear the spirits talking in the wind, so I can relate to what you're saying.
Oh, the wind also is very significant because usually for me, before when I connected to King Paralda, the elemental king of air, the very first time he came, all I could hear was a random boom, but there was no real wind blowing, but I could hear it as if wind talking. And then he starts talking in kind of a windish whisper,
Mhm.
and then you're gonna pick it up properly. So they do have their way of coming in and showing them who they are, showing you who they are. But when that occurred, it was crazy because it was like everything at the same damn time. Because when you're in nature, you have elementals of the earth, of the wind, and like I was next to a huge tree that was very, very big and very, very old. I can assume easily it was over 100 years old, easily by that sheer size that it had. It was the biggest tree in the valley that I could see. So I thought that I can test this. I literally went up and I put my hands on the tree and I connected with it, and it was immediate. And I could hear it. And it had kind of like a elderly, kind of a deepish voice, which you could tell was half not human. Very similar, if we can describe it, if we see the movie Lord of the Rings, there is
Yeah,
like movies, so many accurate representations sometimes when we see of occult stuff. The voice of the trees, the elder trees, when they speak, it was very similar, but much deeper and echoing. Okay.
mhm.
So I asked it if it has a name, basically, because I tried to figure out what's going on. So it said, of course, we all have names. Nothing remains nameless in the universe. Everything has been given a purpose, existence, and of course, a name.
Right.
It had a weird name. His name was Oknondomnor. It was a long, weird one that he gave me. I wrote it down because I was never going to remember it. And then I asked it if there were any Fae inhabiting it. He told me because it was pretty much half rotten. He said there used to be a few years ago, about 87 years ago, there used to be some Fae here, but they have all left as I am close to a specific age and timeline where I cannot inhabit them anymore, and I shall seek to reach the end of my existence
Right.
eventually. Of course, as we know, trees when they're too old, they fall. Nothing lasts forever. So it was a crazy experience, and for me personally, you connect to everything to such an extent, it's crazy. Like you could go home, sit down, without any ritual whatsoever, and focus in 1 second. And you'd want to astral project into the cliff. Boom, you're right there. It flares up like a TV. And you want to connect to a specific spirit that you go in its realm. There you are. You want to
Now
summon something.
you speak of the sensitivity to the elementals and to everything around you, and I know part of that process with some people, with me, was pain. I had mentioned about the headaches and things like that, and to me that was like Belial working on me and changing things, because when things are changed and open, sometimes you do have to experience physical pain. Would you agree with that?
What I know, when I was new and I used to get this constantly every day, and it got to a stage where at the beginning you can't really function. Like I became very, very sick, and I was literally like, I spent most
Yeah.
of my days holding my head and I didn't know what to do. What's gonna happen is you invoke. So basically the spirit will come into you, and they can travel within the physical body, of course, as a living energy. They can go to a specific organ. So they will go through the back of your brain and slip into the front, and they will apply energetical pressure. That's why sometimes if you invoke heavily, you can literally feel a hand squeezing the brain, and that's when you get the dilated pupils. It's like someone when you take substances, when we see someone who is intoxicated, they have
Right.
very dilated pupils. That will happen to you. They will go black. Your color will change in some cases. Like mine literally go black from very, very dark brown to black. It's very significant that
Right.
people can pick. But that's why this pain occurs. And in the beginning, you will get nosebleeds as well, which will act as offering, but that dissipates in time. You get used to this eventually. But the beginning, yes, is violent, and the spirit will apply its tension within that particular part of your brain. It's in the middle where the pineal gland is, to actually swell it up,
Mhm.
because that gland can swell up through vocal vibrations that we do. That's why we vibrate with our voice, and we use our tongue on your oronescus on the top to bring that vibration here where you wanted to feel it. And you put your teeth together as well, which reinforces the vibration to go here. That's one way. The second way would be via the spirit itself, where it's going to do the work for you. But that will be painful and violent, and it will hurt, and you could get a nosebleed, and you could one day also pass out. But these are not permanent side effects, of course.
Hmm. Yeah, it was an interesting experience for both of us, and definitely made us more sensitive. Now, you had mentioned about experience you recently had at a graveyard that you were speaking of. Can you go ahead and tell us about that?
This is a completely new path working and severe series of devotions that I have performed and will keep performing. I was brought before Papa Legba recently by one of my matrons, which is Hecate. She's been extremely close to me since the very beginning when I started, and
Right.
I'm very grateful for this. Actually, it's been tremendous help. But at that particular time, I was traveling through the Mediterranean, and part of it was that I had to visit a specific ancient temple and connect with the energies of it and take some rocks from it. So it was the temple of Poseidon, which I visited.
Yeah.
And then later on, I had to visit a graveyard to visit a grave of someone which I personally knew. But at the same time, it was part of my path working to connect once again with the energies of the dead. Now, the senses after the particular path working and transformation with the Loa, which started with Papa Legba and continued to Baron Samedi, and then with Carrefour or Calfu, and then with Baron de la Croix. So Papa Legba basically opens the gate, and there is a sequence of spirits that you will meet and transform again and again and again. They literally work in a row, each and every one of them, with Legba always being the gateway, the gatekeeper. He's very similar to Belial in that way. He is
Mhm.
the gate, he opens the gates, and then
Right.
you just go for it. And you will meet one after the other, and these spirits will transform.
The law of communication.
Exactly.
Mm.
Which, of course, is endless once you enter the path. As long as you live, you will be getting transformed as such, and it never ends. So immediately as I entered, what I didn't know is that once you use a specific attunement to the necromantic energies of death, the dead can pick up on it. Literally, they will know. You're like a living beacon in there. So what I did is I walked around and took I took a look around to see these graves, and I was surprised to see that many were pretty young. I saw ages between 14 to 19, which was, of course, it's a pity because there's pictures in all of them, and some of them were very good-looking people,
Right.
and young, of course, with their life ahead of them. And it's actually not a good thing to feel pity because what happened is there was a specific one where there was a young girl about 19, and I said, man, that's a pity. You know, she's a very good-looking girl, had her whole life ahead of her. That spirit jumped out from its placement, and because you gave it your pity, it somehow found a way to reconnect through the crossroads, came out, and latched and attached to you. Like literally, I felt the cold wind of the spirit hug me and thanking me for giving it my pity and my
Mhm.
remorse for what had happened to it.
Yeah.
Because that particular grave was old. I don't think anyone had visited in a very long time, especially when you see very dry flowers that have been there
Right.
for a long time. So
Now,
you know these people have
would
forgotten
you
you.
agree that for that reason, going to a graveyard, it's good to not leave your crown chakra open for spirits to attach to you and to have influence
It's
on
good to be attuned, but at the same time, you have to close yourself off. Your biggest weapon will be, although it might sound bad, apathy. You must enter completely neutral and apathetic. I feel cold as I speak right now.
Mhm.
You cannot afford to go in and give them all this pity and remorse for them because they will attach to you. And we are speaking of a huge graveyard. Now, it was difficult to get rid of this particular person. And also, it doesn't feel good because you do feel pity like a human being because this is just a young person who God knows what happened to them or why. Probably an accident, more or less.
Right.
Um, but you have to get rid of them. You can't. You have to push them back. You have to kick them out because they will drain you unintentionally. Because sometimes what happens is wraths may be created through this passage of the crossroads because you're not supposed to bring them back up because they can enter into kind of like a brainwashed zombie mode where the remorse and pain for the loss of their life that they didn't get to live it will drive them literally spiritually insane, and then they become wraiths. That's like an angry dead spirit, and that's one of the worst things you can have. Unintentionally, even if that spirit doesn't have anything against you, it will turn. It's like an unpredictable wild animal that you're raising. It's gonna bite
Right.
eventually, man. You know.
And they need energy, really bad because if they don't get it, they're just going to disintegrate into nothing.
A dead can drain you to the point where your face is going to change and you're gonna look like you like a heroin addict. I mean, it's severe and it's bad. I've seen it happen to me within seconds, and I couldn't recognize me. Literally, like one of my eyes went smaller, the other one bigger, and my face just shifted. It was bad, very bad.
Mm.
So it's very dangerous. Necessary, yes, but very dangerous. Do not connect with the dead to such an extent when you enter these places. Remain apathetic for your own good. Of course, you are not being evil. You have to do a specific job. Um, of course, if you require something, make sure you leave 3 coins, as I do, in a place where there is a crossroad. This will empower you severely. It will help you because they will open up gates if you want. They will empower you altogether. You can perform a takeover. Okay, you can do many things. But it's good to do them in a positive way. Give them some offerings. I usually what I do is I take 4 sticks, incense sticks. I put one in each corner of the graveyard, regardless of size. They tend to be huge in big cities. Yes, just put 4 of them in each corner. You're not, of course, going to bring 1,000 and something sticks to put in each grave individually. It's impossible. And you're supposed to also not get caught doing what you're doing because remember that you're in a public space which is open and operating. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, throw the coins on the crossroads and have some alcohol with you. If you can hide it somehow in a bag and run around and sprinkle it a little bit so nobody sees. Okay, it's not difficult to make. You don't need a huge bottle. It can also be a small one, and you don't need huge amounts. Okay, run around and try and make a circle or as much as you can, and sprinkle whatever you can to them. And of course, if you have some flowers, leave them at the same crossroads or around the graves individually as much as you can. They will receive it, and they will come, and they will be actually very welcoming and friendly. If, of course, you're in a graveyard where normal people are. If
Right.
you're in a graveyard where the souls that you know are a little bit harsher. Now we're talking about the dead of, let's say, in a place where all the prisoners who died unnamed, death row, and what have you. These
Mm-hmm.
will not be friendly. These will always be more rowdy. But that's where Baron Samedi comes in handy. He will give you the authority over them, and you will not have to fear them if you are under his devotion and transformations. Um, a soul devotion is beneficial to these spirits. Santa Muerta as well, which is an amazing spirit that I've come across to recently. Um, I actually happened to come across both aspects, male and female. They came together, which I find amazing. Which it happens rarely. Usually with me, what happens is I will see one aspect, and maybe a year later I will see another one. But these were together. So necromancy is worth it in my experience. And you have to also figure out if it's your true soul calling, because you could have spent years doing something different. For example, a different current like vampirism. Okay, dealing with Belial, you will go through all kinds of vampiric currents, and you will meet many vampiric spirits. But you may see that you can't really go to that high extent that you wanted. So chances are that in your past life, you were more of a necromancer practitioner rather than a vampiric one. So then you find your true calling, and then you initiate through the spirits of necromancy, Santissima Muerte, Hecate, the barons, the law, what have you, and then you see that everything skyrockets. And then you have like huge open senses. For example, to me, the experience with the elementals and all this connection was the closest that I can say that that's what a living God is to me. That's what that means. Being connected to a literally all everything. Like you can connect to the spirit of a rock in front of you because
Mm-hmm.
it's a living thing. It has a spirit. Everything is creation of what God has created. Everything is spirit.
I
The
agree. Everything is spirit. I agree that everything has a spirit in it.
very object, the rock that you're looking on, has a spirit inside it. That can connect with you if you reach that level, which is insane.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now on the subject of Papa Legba, you had done some videos. Let me go to some notes that I took of um, uh, tell us about the experience when Papa Legba came to you with Hecate.
That was a very significant meeting because it was literally like a few years ago, about 3 years ago, if I remember well.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just performed my very, very first operation. Let's call it a graveyard. It was next to a church. I was guided by Hecate at the time. It was shortly after my merge with her to a specific church where there was a small area that was a graveyard. Um, I was guided to take some alcohol and throw it to the dead there and try and connect with them. I also left some tobacco, although I don't smoke, I didn't light it, I just left it there. And I had only one stick at the time, which I also lit, and I left. Now, there was no, of course, no fear of me getting caught because that place was like a very, very old Celtic placement. Like literally, they tend to be kind of abandoned around here.
Right.
A lot of them, they're very old, very abandoned. Nobody really looks after them, so you can literally
No
go in at any point.
cameras, no nothing like that.
Oh, absolutely, it's wide open. Literally, you can just walk in,
Right.
and what's funny is a lot of them don't really look like they're going to collapse. They look like they're just very steady and firm. They're very, very well built somehow. But yeah, there's no danger. Nobody's gonna say anything to you. Like lots of people go into them, well, for the wrong reasons, usually just to drink. But it's a great thing to do to connect because there's so
Yes.
many of them around. Literally, you can go to any one of them and open up portals to all of them, as many as you want, to keep your empowerment and your transformations going. So what happened is I wasn't really aware why I was doing this. I was just told to do it. When I went home, that's when it kicked off, because literally there was a big gray fog that appeared all over the room. And the energies were so severe and I was new to them that I passed out. And then all these dead people came around and they started joking with me, saying thanks, first of all, for what I gave them. And we had a nice little chat. They were just normal people. They were very kind. And it was a very enjoyable, actually, one of the most enjoyable interactions that I had with the human dead. I never knew they could be this cool. 3 days later, I'm literally sitting in my living room, and then you get the shift happening again. So then I know someone is coming. I know there is a visit. I looked to my left, and there I saw a dark shadow cloaked figure. That looked kind of like the Nazgul, like we said again, Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Very similar to the black hooded figures that come around. And then I heard the voice. It kind of wasn't like an oldish woman voice. Hecate changes. Sometimes can sound younger, sometimes older, according to aspect, of course. But I knew exactly who it was straight away. And then I saw the figure of a shadow black man who came next to her, appeared, was, for me, topless. And he had kind of how to say, you know what the tribes wear, kind of like in Africa, looks
Right.
like
I
yellow.
think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, the yellow hay kind of looking.
Yeah, I know.
That they wear around them, and he had this staff thing that had a skull with 3 Indian kind of feathers hanging underneath it, and white, silver, shining moon eyes, and
Straw hat.
kind of dreadlock-ish hair, but
Right.
not very long.
Right.
Of course, I didn't know who that is. I have no idea. I've never met her. I was like, okay, what's up? So he did tell me his name, which once again, at the time, I had no idea who he is. Okay. He said, I am Legba. I was like, okay, well, sorry, I don't really know you. But then we started talking, and he did reveal a little bit about him. And basically, there is a lot of misconception when it comes to the Loa, that they are some kind of a demonic figure, for example, or that they are bloodthirsty, or that they bring a lot of misfortune to people. They can. But to my experience, it has been completely the opposite. They have told me that, first of all, they're not demon. They live at the crossroads. That's where they are. This is the border between the living and the dead, which is literally, energy-wise, physically, from what was told to me, just between the space of our dark space above in the heaven and the space,
Right.
and the astral space.
Okay.
That's why the astral looks dark like space to us. But what you see is not the physical space, it's the astral space.
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 of them. So we have a border where they look the same color, but one is physical and the other one is astral, basically. And that's where in between, that's where the crossroad is when you're in the star planes. That's why you basically see yourself in some kind of a walkway in the stars when you're there, and then the law appears there. They are not limited, okay? Because demons have limitations due to biblical references of severe negative and destructive energies. They can't be released into our world just like this. They have a limit of how much they are released, which of course is regulated by Big Daddy God, and many other spirits, and the archangels and what have you. There's hierarchies of systems. They don't necessarily represent the left-hand side. In my case, they tend to appear to me always from the right, which is very significant. Like when Legba wants me to summon him, I start getting pain in my right leg and I kind of start limping for no reason. Or when he wants to touch me, he will give me a painful touch, he has a strong hand, and I would feel it here on my right shoulder. He never came to me from the left side like the demons would. He never poked or scratched me so I can know what's happening.
Right.
They don't have any limitation at all. They walk the earth and they can manifest here between things that they will manifest, or if they want to show themselves like this, as easy as an archangel. I've seen Saint Michael pop up just like poof, it's ooh. You know, it's incredible how you can just do that, you know, because you'd be thinking that the worlds are separated.
You know,
You're not allowed,
I do
really.
have to agree with you with the fact that there there's a lot of misconceptions among the Loa in the West. You know, they think, like you said, they think they're demonic. Then take, for instance, Papa Legba is a protector of children. You know, things
Yeah.
like that.
They actually don't like being called demonic. Like I was
Yeah.
met with a little bit of, well, not anger, but annoyance, you know.
Mm,
So I would recommend to anyone who's new, don't go in front of the law and see them as some kind of a demon. Also, they are not bloodthirsty. When you go to the law, don't give blood because that will piss them off, and then you don't know what's gonna happen. In my experience, the blood is only to be given in very severe soul devotions if you are deemed fit for this, if they accept, and if you're willing to do it. That's when you only do it. And you don't really need like a whole ton. You literally just a teeny tiny bit is symbolic mostly. It doesn't have any significance. You are not feeding the spirit blood like you would with the demon. They are not vampiric in any way. Um, Mostly, if there is blood, it would be of animals, which are ritualistic once again, and they correspond to them. Okay, like a black rooster, a ram or goat, or a black rabbit, according to whatever it is that you see. But they don't need any of these things. Like you're gonna go way further with the law by giving them nice offerings like coins, candy, honey, cigars, good ones. Okay,
mm.
like loves them, and coffee is the one that Samedi loves, and find some fine alcohol, whiskey, bourbon, Hennessy. In my experience, Samedi loves the particular Hennessy that I drink, so this is great because I never really have to travel very far to find something specific that doesn't
Right.
exist. So it works fine. It works just well.
All right.
Oh, and
Now,
try to mix your DNA with these offerings with the alcohol. It's significant. Spit it. Put it in your mouth first and spit it. Your own DNA is needed to mix with that offering in the alcohol. That's significant. That's one thing that is a big must. In my experience, don't just pour it like this. You can do that with the dead, but with the Loa, you have to mix your DNA. So always try and spit it 3 times.
good noted. Now, let's go ahead and talk about Dark Soul Gnosticism as we close out here. Let's see. So this is Dark Soul Gnosticism is you have a Facebook group and also a YouTube channel, Dark Soul Gnosticism. Everybody who's watching, the links will be below in the video description. Is there anything that you're currently working on? Anything you want to go ahead and plug?
Due to a specific turn of events, I have been brought once again on a solitary path. And it so seems that it's going to remain like this for a while until things change according to the spirit. Now, the way that I wanted to go about is that I wanted to bring forth knowledge which is of a mixture of currents and not only 100% focused upon demonic, tree of death, and left hand path.
Right.
So that's why I have tried to bring forth things like um, the Greek gods that they came to me. Like we have Hecate, we have Poseidon. I've connected with Mars, and I'm recently connecting with Hades, and also I've also made a video and big reference for those who wish to educate upon it for the 5 rivers of Hades, which is if you want to be a necromancer, and if you have a great connection to Santissima Muerte, which a lot of people do mostly, you will find these path workings to be great, but they are dangerous. I've mentioned about the side effects, which necromancy tends to manifest a lot physically in your physical body, from what I've noticed. Okay.
Mhm.
When you are at the point where you're practicing necromancy, the connection between man and astral is very, very diminished. So it's going to manifest through you a lot more than any other operation or current would. So that's one big note to keep in mind. And yeah, basically, like I said, for in regards to the channel, I wanted to bring forth different currents and not just solidly devote to one. And I really don't want any limitations anymore. Also, it's not unknown that some people will get along with certain spirits and they won't get along with others. So I believe that also being on the solitary path is a little bit more beneficial rather than keeping it into a specific circle because people may not agree with you in certain areas. So that's another good thing to have in mind. But yeah, different currents will be brought forth, and different knowledge of all currents will be brought forth of all possible aspects of the spirits, which I believe will bring much more education rather than limitation and solid focus upon one and only. Because the universe is vast, there is never no such thing as only one. There are many currents, and there are many aspects in spirits.
I agree. I agree that you shouldn't limit yourself with that, and I like the fact that all that stuff is taught. But everybody who's watching, check out his YouTube channel, Dark Soul Gnosticism, and the Facebook group, Dark Soul Gnosticism. Once again, the links are in the video description below. And Sandra, Nasi, thank you again for your time, and thank you for coming on to the channel.
Thank you for having me. Rise and conquer.
You're welcome. And everyone who's watching, like and subscribe to Dark Sorcery.